Well, good morning, Seoul. I know it's not quite exactly good morning Vietnam, but definitely closer than good morning Newcastle. Anyway, welcome to Gary Goes. No, my name is still not Gary, and I'm here in Seoul, South Korea. A little bit exotic, definitely the furthest afield that I've ventured for a while. Long haul flights, came over on Monday via Abu Dhabi, so it took a while. Got here yesterday afternoon, absolutely shattered, had a little wander around, some food. But yeah, up and about, reverse jet lag, 5 a.m. this morning I woke up. So first in for breakfast and out by 8. Having a little wander. This is Cheonggyecheon, I think, which is awesome. It's like a stream that they've kind of reclaimed, and it's a fantastic little walkway. Goes on for a good 3 or 4 miles, a bit like the High Line in New York, but lower and wetter, obviously. So yeah, I'm gonna have a little wander. I'm here for just under a week, so not that long, but definitely long enough to sample a fair bit of Seoul and hopefully get out a little bit. I'm going to the demilitarized zone, border with North Korea. I'm hopefully catching a baseball game, doing a bit of hiking in the national park. So yeah, there'll be quite a lot to check out, hopefully. Already warm today. I think it's going to be like 26 degrees, so regretting the hoodie, but I'm sure that'll come off in a bit. Anyway, join me for the rest of the video, and yeah, I'm off for a little bit of a wander. So like you can see, this walk along Cheonggyecheon is really, really gorgeous, particularly this time of year. Blue skies, the flowers, just really pleasant walk. There's little waterfalls and stepping stones. It goes right through the kind of middle of the city centre. Well, one of the city centres. Seoul's enormous, but yeah, it's a good 3 or 4 mile walk if you do the full thing. Really, really kind of highlight of Seoul, I think. And yeah, it's only about 10 years old since they've remade this or reclaimed it. And this is right at one end, so this is up by where the main palace is, by the city hall, kind of the real centre of Seoul is where this walk starts. So yeah, as I say, you could do the whole thing in probably an hour or so. Highly recommended. Yeah, definitely stunning. So I'm really going to struggle with the pronunciations on this video, probably more than any other trip I've done, but I'll try my best. So this is Gyeongbokgung Palace. So it's one of, I think, 4 main palaces in Seoul, and this is the most central, the most famous, probably the most impressive, the one that's used for kind of state events, the changing of the guard, which I was lucky enough to see, which I'll see in a minute. But yeah, it's very kind of formally set out. So it's kind of, you know, there's the central pathway with the main palace, and then there's these separate sort of temples and things on either side, leading up to the top where there's this other lake and pagoda. So yeah, I mean, couldn't have asked for a better day. The mountains as a backdrop there. I am just going to be quiet and let you enjoy. So what you'll see a lot around all of these palaces and the Bukchon village as well, which you'll see a little bit later on, is that people in Korea tend to rent out or hire these traditional costumes, and it's almost like a cosplay thing. They dress up in these costumes to kind of walk around and explore their palaces. And yeah, as I mentioned, I was lucky enough to see the change of the guard. So this is a couple of times a day, but I think the morning one is the most impressive. Because I was up and out early, I literally arrived before the crowds and was there for this, which I think was 10 a.m. So that's definitely what I'd recommend. Get there early, have a look around the palace, then see the change of the guard. So this was really cool. So yeah, there's obviously a lot of the more ancient history around Seoul, but for more modern kind of 50s, 60s, 70s history, this was really, really interesting. It's a couple of city blocks that they've renovated. There's a cinema, an old sort of style cafe, an arcade, comic shop, things like that, a little museum. And yeah, it's really interesting to kind of walk around to see what Seoul was like, in more recent times, following the Second World War. You kind of get a flavour of that, which you can't really get anywhere else in the city. So I think they purposely kept this little block from redevelopment. Obviously it's surrounded by skyscrapers and things. So yeah, a really nice hour or two wander around here. Really interesting museum as well. So this is the area I was talking about before. This is the Bukchon Hanok village. And Hanoks are those wooden framed traditional old Korean houses that you see there. Again, they're quite scarce now in Seoul. So they've retained this whole sort of neighborhood. It's quite big and definitely worth a wander around. There's lots of little craft shops, antiques places, cafes, that kind of thing. And again, this is a really popular place where people hire the costumes and wander around and pretend it's a few hundred years ago. Not me, it has to be said. I wasn't up for any cosplay while I was wandering around Seoul, but yeah, it was really interesting. Again, one of the highlights. I think it's one of the sort of top 5 things to do while you're in Seoul. So yeah, leading down from the Hanok village down towards the city centre, this is Insadong, so a pedestrianised area, quite touristy, lots of souvenir shops and restaurants and things. Again, really pleasant walk. And this place was the 24-hour ramen convenience store, which was fantastic and dead cheap for lunch. So yeah, it's completely unmanned, this cafe. All of the ramen instant noodles you could ever want. You just use a vending machine to choose the one you want, and then use the little machines to kind of cook it and mix it all together, add your toppings, and you can go and sit upstairs as well, all for a couple of quid. Absolute bargain. And this is the very busy Dongdaemun Gate area of city centre Seoul. It's kind of the opposite end of the city centre from the palace that I showed you before. Again, you can walk along the Cheonggyecheon pathway, or along, I think it's Jongno, which is the main, really, really busy thoroughfare that goes right through the city centre. And this is a big shopping district, so lots of malls, lots of markets, really famous for clothing in particular, I think. And yeah, the end of the first day. Gorgeous view from my hotel room at night, just on the outskirts there of the main sort of central business district. Stunning views. There's a little rooftop seating area, so that was great. Again, yeah, looking back towards Bukchon, those mountains there in the national park. And another day, another royal palace. I am absolutely going to struggle with these two, so I've got this ready to read out. It's the Cheonggyecheon Palace and the Cheonggyecheon Palace. So there you go. You've learned some Korean today. Yeah, both of these are kind of next to each other. Again, just more on the outskirts of the city, pretty close to my hotel. Again, both stunning. I think these are a little bit more informal, a bit more sort of built up around the woods and things. So kind of really, really pretty setting. I was a bit templed out or palaced out by this point. So, they are a bit samey. Maybe spread them out and maybe, do one at the beginning of the trip and the other two at the end or something. But I mean, they're stunning, but they are all obviously quite similar. But anyway, yeah, I'll let you check them out. I should mention as well that although there is a entrance fee for all the palaces, it's really low. It's like £3 or £4, if that. So definitely worth a trip. But anyway, this is the Dongdaemun area. So this again is a big shopping district like Dongdaemun, but this one's a bit more sort of bric-a-brac and food, I suppose. There's not so many high-end malls, or there's some further in down the road a little bit, some really posh ones. But anyway, this is much more authentic, ethnic kind of food based. So this is known as Hairtail Alley down here. So it's a specific type of fish, which the name of which escapes me in what we call it in English, but it's known in Korea as the hairtail fish. Literally there's a whole alley in this market that specializes in cooking this fish in stew, fried, grilled, like whichever way you think to have it. I was going to go there, but I have to be honest, on this day my stomach was feeling a bit delicate, and yeah, I did want to try it out, but you know, there's a reason to go back to Seoul. And then yeah, just down from Dongdaemun, this is the kind of main shopping street. Yeah, I mean it's very Western, isn't it? Like you can see, I mean, compared to that market, which is kind of the interesting thing about Seoul. Like most places in Asia, I suppose, it's that combination of you know, the traditional markets and that kind of more old-fashioned feel, and then this very Western-leaning you know, shopping district with all your chains and your coffee shops and you know, your McDonald's and everything. But just to show, I suppose, that you know, that's really fascinating about Seoul is that mixture of super hyper modern and traditional. And yeah, of course, you know, you go anywhere, you need to try out the McDonald's. So I had the interesting thing. So there's a bulgogi burger, which is there on the right, and then this was a shrimp burger, which both were quite interesting, and the mango drink. So after being full of Korean McDonald's, I headed to the Seoul Tower, the Namsan Seoul Tower here on the Namsan Mountain, which is again right in the middle of Seoul. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, you can hike it, but as I already mentioned, I was feeling slightly ropey today, and so I opted to take the cable car, which I definitely recommend. You can always walk down. It's definitely easier than walking up. Yeah, the weather wasn't fantastic. So today was like the greyest, most overcast day. It was still decent, tiny bit of rain, but it was still fine. But yeah, as you can see, amazing views over the city. And I'd only realised, like, I think this was the fourth day, maybe like the third full day that I was here in Seoul, that I'd realised I'd not even seen the river, the main Han River that runs through Seoul, and there's as much of the city south as there is north. It's absolutely massive, 35 million inhabitants, so more than 3 times the size of London. Yeah, enormous. And here is the Namsan Seoul Tower itself, which I think is also a TV tower. Again, quite reasonable. I think it was like £7 or £8, which is not bad at all for an observation deck. And they've got all this seating area here, which obviously if you hiked and just went here, this is all free. But yeah, absolutely stunning. Again, that's Bukchon National Park in the distance. And this is just like the north side of the city. And yeah, the view from the tower. So there's a couple of levels, I think, for the viewing. And I think not on this one, I think on the other level, it's really interesting. On the windows, there's kind of little different facts about what you're looking at, like the different districts, what they're famous for, the Olympic Village, you know, pointing out skyscrapers and things like that. So yeah, really interesting, and definitely worth the price of admission. There's the river. So that was the kind of first view I've had of the Han River. And then, like I say, there's Seoul goes on, you know, for miles and miles and miles south of the river as well. Many more skyscrapers and things. So it's really difficult to even say what is the city centre. I mean, there's the central business district, which was where I spent most of the first couple of days. But yeah, as you can see, it is absolutely enormous. Time for some more food and my first taste of Korean barbecue. So I had some amazing lamb chops. Korean barbecue is always better when there's a few of you and it was just me. But, you know, I had to sample it. And they always have these side dishes, these banchan, sort of different pickles and nuts and kimchi, obviously kimchi, to go with everything. But that was really nice. Some more food. So don't worry, this was a different day. I wasn't going completely OTT, but this is Donkatsu, which is the kind of Korean version of tonkatsu from Japan. Jeju black pork, stunning, really, really nice. And yeah, to work off that meal, a little wander back to the hotel along the Cheonggyecheon by night, which if anything is even more stunning and beautiful than it is during the day. Very, very romantic. There's me trying not to kill myself on the stepping stones whilst filming. Not so much romantic for me, obviously on my Todd, but lots and lots of Seoulites head there for a romantic stroll, picnics in summer, obviously with the skyscrapers either side, it's gorgeous. Well, thanks all for watching, and hopefully you'll be able to join me on part 2 of my adventures soon.